on Tuesday, June 15th at 6:30 p.m. Ashley, can you do roll call, please?
Councilmember Anderson,
Here.
Councilmember Lauren,
Here.
Councilmember New,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Here.
and Mayor Cowan.
Here. Okay, next we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Bill, would you like to lead us in the pledge tonight?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of the
of
United
the United
States
States of America,
and to the
and to the republic
for which it stands,
stands one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
for all.
Thank you. All
Absolutely.
right, before we move on, I'll just mention again that this meeting's being conducted on Zoom pursuant to the Brown Act waivers provided for under the governor's executive orders. And the agenda and the city website state how the public may address the city council. Members of the public joining the meeting by Zoom who wish to make a comment on any item may press the raise your hand button, or if you're on a phone, you can press *9. And we ask everybody to keep their phones and their computers on mute until you're called upon. And we will address public comment on all items. And we will do all roll call votes. And I think that's about it for now. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda, city manager?
There are not, thank you.
I would
New
motion to
mo-
approve.
Okay, new seconds.
Okay, we got a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Councilmember New. Ashley, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson, Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we're going to move on to council comments, and we will start with Councilmember Lauren.
All right. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. During the period between the last meeting and this, we conducted interviews for the Planning Commission. On 6/10, I attended a webinar by UCITS, partnering with historically underserved communities in transit planning. I sit on the YCTD board, and it seemed like a good in-service for that responsibility. On 6/14, I had my council brief with City Manager Treppa. I also attended the tour of the Blue Mountain Terrace. Really excited about that. I had a Sac Valley Division meeting, and that was later followed by a YCTD board meeting and closed session. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. On Friday, June 4th, I attended a Zoom meeting for the Yolo Air Quality Management District. Wednesday, June 9th, attended a Zoom meeting with Yolo Air Quality Management District. Thursday, June 10th, attended a Zoom meeting with the Lower Peter Creek Coordinating Committee. Mondays, had a June 14th, had a Zoom meeting with City Manager Kathleen Treppa. That's the report.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember New.
Thank you. On Thursday, the 3rd of this month, I attended the SACOG Land Use and Natural Resources meeting. We looked at growth projections for the area. and regional linking of park trails. The idea is that Winters residents should be able to ride or walk or have a safe way to get to Woodland and Davis and all around the region. And so there's a plan that might be developed, it might not, to take all the parks in a jurisdiction and maybe link those together and then try to reach out from that jurisdiction to the next jurisdiction and have trails going that way. That was that. On the 4th, I attended the WSC FFE, that's the Furniture and Fixtures Committee. And they're working hard at writing solicitations for money. They're working on wording and trying to make it as agreeable as possible when you're asking for somebody to give you money. So that was Friday. And then this morning I met with our city manager to discuss tonight's agenda. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi.
Thank you, Mayor. On June 2nd, I met with the city manager to discuss a number of issues at the city. On June 3rd, attended the management staff meeting. Also on June 3rd, I sat in for the mayor on one of the interviews for the planning commission. On June 9th, I met with the chamber executive director, the city manager, the chamber president, and a person who's an expert on wayfinding and signage, and she presented various options that we might be able to consider for wayfinding and signage for our town. June 11th, I attended the chamber board meeting. June 14th, we were privileged to have a tour of the Blue Mountain Terrace senior apartments, which will be opening soon. It was nice to go in and actually see what's been done so far. They're getting close to opening, but not quite there yet. On the 14th, I also had the agenda review meeting with the city manager. And later that evening, attended the chamber mixer at the pizza factory. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the 3rd, I had a homelessness commission Zoom meeting. And then as mentioned by Councilmember Lauren, we conducted planning commission interviews on the 3rd and the 8th. And I do want to say we had an outstanding core of candidates. We needed to fill 4 seats. We had 11 applicants, which is pretty unusual for Winters to get more applicants than there is seats available. And they were all very outstanding, and it was a tough decision. And I want to thank the Mayor Pro Tem for sitting in on one of them for me that I had a conflict with. But I think we came up with some really good candidates, and probably for the first time ever, all 4 nominees are women. So I think that's a first as well. And then also on the 4th, I had a Zoom meeting with Supervisor Saylor regarding the pending cannabis land use ordinance the county's working on. And on the 8th, well, that one I already did. On the 10th, I also attended a VCE Zoom meeting. On the 14th, I attended the chamber mixer at Pizza Factory. And I also had a call today with the city manager to review tonight's agenda. And one other thing that I was asked to mention, I need to remind everybody that the annual garage sale of the rich and famous will be held this Saturday, June 19th, starting at 8 a.m. This is a citywide event with the majority of the activity at City Park on Main and 4th. And there's still a few places left at the park. There's no charge to get one of those spaces to sell all your junk for somebody else to claim as a treasure. There's more information in this week's Express. So there you go. Thank you, everybody, for all your extra work and committee assignments. And now we're going to move on to public comment. And this is an opportunity for anybody in the public that's listening to address the city council on an item which is not on our agenda. If you wish to comment on an agendized item, please wait for that item to come up. So anybody wish to address us on non-agenda items, now's the time to do so. Ashley, do we have any raised hands?
I do not see any hands up and I did not receive any written comment.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to the consent calendar. City Manager Treppa?
Yes, thank you. We have 4 items on the consent calendar. The first are the minutes for the regular council meeting held on June 1st. The second is a resolution approving the First Amendment to the professional services agreement between the City of Winters and Bureau Veritas for services related to the building division. The increased amount is $312,560 for fiscal year 21-22, and also extending the term through the next fiscal year, June 30th, 2022. The third item is appointing 4 members to the Planning Commission. Those members are Judith Arce, Lisa Baker, Nancy Northrup, and Jessica Smith. Their terms are for 4 years beginning in July of this year. And the last item are work orders for 2 technical consultants to work on the Farmstead Development Project. All costs would be paid for by the developer through deposit accounts. The first is a work order for $24,970 for Fair and Piers for traffic engineering services. And the second is $6,500 for Woodard and Curran for water supply and fire flow analysis. And those are the 4 items on the consent calendar.
Okay, any council comments to the consent calendar?
I have a
Councilmember Lauren, go ahead.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor Cowan. I had a comment about the work that we did to find members for our planning commission. I wanted to use this opportunity to thank everybody who interviewed. There are so many wonderful people in Winters, so very deeply qualified. And I really enjoy when Wade and I work together. It's an opportunity for us to be collaborative, which is the culture on council. And it's also an opportunity for us to build a deliberative body in the Planning Commission. And there are really great people that weren't selected, but they were wonderful people. And I just wanted to say that I have deep gratitude for everyone who interviewed, and welcome to the new members if we vote in their favor.
Thank you. Ashley, do we have any public comment regarding the consent calendar?
Sorry, give me 1 second. We have 2 pages of people tonight. I do not see any hands up and I did not receive any written comment.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember New.
If there was no comments from the public, I was going to move for approval.
Okay, thank you.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember New and a second by Councilmember Lauren. Ashley, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the new planning commissioners. Look forward to seeing you in action. Okay, we don't have any presentations tonight, so we're going to move on to a public hearing, and this is regarding resolution 2021-37, confirming an assessment diagram and assessment and providing for the fiscal year 2021-22 for the maintenance assessment district. City manager, are you taking the lead on this?
Sure, I can if I see Shelley popped open, or she can, either, whichever she prefers.
Hi, good evening, City Council. Before you tonight is the final step for assessing the levy for the citywide assessment district. As you know, you've seen this before you a couple of times as we've gone through the process. It is a multiple step process. And this is the final process in which we hold a public hearing to hear any public discussion on the amount of the levy, which is not changed. It's still $82.50 per residential unit and $26.25 per commercial unit. So staff is recommending that you hold a public hearing to take public input and then adopt the resolution 2021-37, ordering the levy of the citywide assessment district.
Okay, thank you very much, Shelley. Is there any council comments before we open the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we'll open the public hearing at 6:46. Ashley, do we have any takers for public comment or written comment for this item?
I am not seeing any hands up, and we did not receive any written comment.
Okay, well then at 6:46 and 30 seconds, we'll close the public hearing and we'll throw it back to the council for any comments or a motion.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just would repeat a comment that I've made at the previous times we've brought this before us. That I would hope that the city would be able to look into what we need to do to potentially increase that citywide assessment. It does not cover everything that we need to do with it. It's a little over, I think, 70% covers it. And I really would like to see if we can't explore maybe increasing that amount and go through that whole process. But otherwise, I think I am in favor of this. I would like to move the staff recommendation on this item.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember New.
I'm seconding the item.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi and a second by Councilmember New. And Harold, would you like to comment before we vote?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
I can remember when this assessment was initially approved. It's very it's a controversy. It took a lot of work to get it passed, and one of the main ways of getting it passed was having that only a certain percentage of the whole bill would be covered by the assessments. The rest would be taken care of by the general fund. So I think that's so much.
Question.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Anderson, do you know what percentage it was that was intended to cover with that assessment?
To say it was intended for I think it was streetlights and that's in some other item which I don't recall at the moment.
And so maybe that's something we can look into in the future if we can find out what that original agreement was on how much it was supposed to cover and see where we're at on that. But thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ashley, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson,
Sorry, I apologize. I believe that there is a hand raised by Tina.
Oh, okay.
And I
Didn't
apologize.
catch
You know,
that.
And I apologize. I'm a senior and I go to sleep sometimes. Thank you, Mayor Cowan and everybody. We've talked about this. We've talked about increasing it because it's been low for so long. How do we go about this? I don't think it covers the necessary expenses that we have. And I still didn't get my answer to how do we go about increasing it to inflation that's happening? I mean, gas goes up, everything goes up. What about this?
Is there anybody on staff that can give an explanation about what we got to go through to change this fee?
Yes, thank you. It's essentially a Prop 218 process whereby we would send out a notification to every address in the city, essentially mailing them a ballot, so to speak, and providing them with information so that they can vote on whether or not they would like to increase the assessment or not increase the assessment. And then those votes are tabulated. So it's a Prop 218 process that we would be required to go through, which also includes the process that we just are going through right now, which is a 4-step process for calling for an engineer's report, issuing several notifications to the public via the council agenda. So it'd be the very same process that we just went through, but as part of increasing the levy, we would also mail a ballot or to every address in the city asking for those property owners to vote on whether or not they support increasing the assessment. And the
Okay,
city,
thank you.
yeah, and the city attorney's office can.
Okay, I just would like to clarify one thing. You said it would get mailed to every address in town, and then you mentioned property owners. So does this allow for property owners only to comment on this, or is it, if it goes to an address where there's a renter, does a renter get to comment on it? So since it's a property owner assessment, is it something that is sent to strictly the property owners? Do we know the answer to that?
I'm going to go ahead, Joanna. I see she just unmuted herself.
I believe it would be property owners.
Property owners. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Tina, now you know.
Thank you very much. Talk to other folks about it, especially
Okay.
Shelley, if we really need it. I think we do because we have a lot of parks and, maintenance is very thin. So thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. Okay, Ashley. Councilmember Lauren, you're muted.
Thank you. Later on, maybe this month or next month, council's going to have that chance to work together on council goals and so forth. And I just hope this is an item that we bring back and work together with staff and council on. That's my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, just to remind everybody, we had a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi, and I believe the second was Councilmember New and Ashley. Can we go ahead and do the vote now?
Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Hi.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Okay, next we have resolution 2021-39. No, sorry about that. We're going to discussion items here, which the first one is approving 2021-38 for the pool facility rental and service agreement. Okay, Kathleen, is that you?
Yes, it is. Thank you very much. So the item before you tonight is a recommendation to adopt Resolution 2021-38, which approves a pool facility rental and services agreement with Solano Aquatic Sea Otters, known as SASO, to help manage the winter swim team and to provide public swim lessons. And by way of background, in recent years, the City of Winters has operated the winter swim team as a municipal recreation swim team at the request of the late Bobby Greenwood when she was no longer able to coordinate the swim team herself. And so at the time, she transferred all the funds that were in the winter swim team fund that she herself managed over to the City of Winters, and the city ran essentially the winter swim team as a recreational swim team. And we did so with the help of a volunteer coordinator who helped secure the coaches, although the coaches were on city payroll, helped drive the registration process, and then helped actually operate the winter's swim team. And so in exchange for the winter swim team, using the joint use of the city's pool with the school district, the winter swim team contributed $8,000 per season to help offset the cost of utilities and maintenance at the pool. And the winter swim team fund also helped cover the cost of the lifeguards. There's approximately $91,000 that is in that fund now, and we have undertaken an effort to secure options and opportunities to run the swim team this season as we come out of COVID. The previous volunteer coordinator decided that she wasn't in a position to be able to coordinate the swim team this year. And so we have secured the services of the Solano Aquatic Sea Otters, SASO, to help us run the swim team. And they've also agreed to help run swim lessons for the city. So what SASO is offering this year is a pretty common model for USA League swim teams, whereby they rent the pool facility in exchange for operating the swim team. And so SASO has offered that very same model to us, where they will pay for the coaches, they'll handle all the registration, they'll essentially rent the pool from us, and that's the rental agreement that's before the city council this evening. And in exchange for that, they would pay the city $2,000 for use of the pool. The city would still provide lifeguards, and we would charge the swim team fund the cost of the lifeguards just for lifeguarding during swim team. In years past, anecdotally, we've understood there have been in excess of about 200 children that have registered for the swim team, but because all the registration was done with paper forms and all those fees were collected by the volunteer coordinator, we haven't had really good records. It's all been manually done and manually processed. So our expectation this year, based on current registrations for swim team, is that we'll have about 150 children signed up for swim team this year. There's the difference in the pool rental fee of the $2,000 versus the $8,000. Because we have a smaller group, and so the numbers have changed. The budget for the swim team program has changed, and we're also really not sure what the finances will look like, since they're paying for the coaches, they're paying for insurance. So what we'd like to do is use $2,000 as a benchmark, and then we can true up at the end of the season. If the finances don't work out for SASO in terms of running the team, we can reduce the fee. And then if it looks as if the finances actually work out in a positive way, then we can adjust the pool rental fee for next year if that's what we would like to continue. The fee for participation on the swim team was increased by $10 per swimmer. Last year, it was $75 as a base fee. There was a one-day, or not last year, I guess it would have been 2019, pre-pandemic. There was a base fee of $75 2 years ago. There was a one-day early registration of $60, and then if you didn't register that one day, it became $75, and then there was a discount for multiple kids in the same family. This is a base fee of $85. The registration is all being taken care of through an online platform that SASO has. It's easier to maintain it at $85, and that's the way the finances worked for the budget for this year for the swim team. And so the recommendation is that the fee be $85. The benefit of this is that it allows for an entity, it's a turnkey operation for the city, and allows for this entity to run the program for us. All risk and safe is transferred to the swim team operator, and they've really been a wonderful partner as we explore options to be able to offer the swim team to the winners community. SASO has also offered to provide swim lessons for the winners community under the same model. It would be a pool lease, and they would also pay $2,000 to use the pool for swim lessons. Swim lessons would be, you would register for swim lessons through the same registration platform that SASO has. They would handle all of that. The city would lifeguard to make sure the pool is being operated in a safe way, and we have lifeguards on deck. And again, we would monitor the financials for the swim lesson program to make sure that it works out for SASO and it works out for the community, and then we could true up everything at the end of the season. So that's the lease and the facility lease agreement and services agreement with SASO that's before the city council this evening, and our recommendation is that the council approve that agreement with SASO. We also wanted to provide an update on open recreational swim. We've been working with Jody Michael, who has been certifying our lifeguards. He's been helping us get our aquatic program up and running this year. He's drafting some pool regulations that are consistent with requirements and norms. And as we get our lifeguards certified and we get the schedule organized for swim team and for swim lessons, we will then fold in open recreational swim for the community. Unlike previous years, we will be requiring that parents stay on deck with their children 12 and younger for safety reasons. It also allows us to have fewer lifeguards on the deck if there are adults monitoring their own children during open swim. Young teens ages 13 to 15 can swim with an older sibling, and then anybody 16 and older can obviously access the pool during open swim on their own. So that's the update on the arrangements that we've made thus far for the pool. It's been a transitional year for us as we explore new partnerships, but we're really very happy with some of the partnerships that have been developed in the last few months. I did include a note at the end of the staff report related to the swim team fund. This has been exclusively used for the swim team. As I mentioned, there's about $91,000 in the fund. So there are opportunities to explore how we might want to use the fund to support Bobby Greenwood's legacy, to help children access the pool who might not be able to afford either participation on the swim team or to participate in swim lessons. We could offer a scholarship program that helps underwrite the fees for children who have, for example, either free or reduced lunch at the school district. It's very simple for us to then verify income eligibility for people who might need some additional assistance by using the lunch program at the school district. And we could take some time over the course of this season and when we're not in program for swim, where we could explore some options to help support the community access the pool. But I just throw that out as an option to start the conversation. We're not recommending any changes or any scholarship program at this time, just given how late we are in the season. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. City manager, you mentioned the rental fee for the pool from SASO would be $2,000. The staff report says $4,000.
It's $2,000 for the swim team and then $2,000 for swim lessons, for a combination of $4,000 for the season.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So if we go through this season and say the swim team does come out in the positive, I know that organization, SASO, is a nonprofit. So if there is an excess in money, would that go back into the swim fund of the city?
So SASO is a nonprofit, and so they have some level that they need to maintain for their own purposes. And so part of our goal with trying to true up at the end of the season is to understand how much they might be either above or below whatever the threshold is for covering their costs, and then having a reserve that they help maintain for their programs. So if I would not suggest that all of it would go back into the fund. We've agreed to a $2,000 minimum for swim team. And based on 150 children, I don't expect that we will actually have any significant excess for the program.
But in the event that we do have a bigger than anticipated demand, I would like to see that money. I know that's kind of how we built up the $91,000 in that account, I believe, by the fireworks sales, but also by money, you know, that the swim team put together and put into that account. That's my understanding. So if there is anything extra from the swim team, yeah, we can, you know, look at raising the fee for rental of the pool next year.
Correct.
But I'd like to see some of it go back into that swim team fund if, you know, SASO's costs are covered and,
Sure.
you know, at the right amount, but yeah.
And I should mention that the SASO manager, Ricky Silva, is on our call this evening, and he's made a commitment that we will have that conversation at the end of the season. It's hard to project since we don't have good financial information for the swim team. I will say that we included in the staff report under fiscal impact that the annual cost for the city to operate the swim team was about $32,000. About 16,000 of that came from registration fees, and the other 16,000 came from the fireworks booth. So this arrangement with SASO actually works in the positive for the city because the costs are significantly lower. I think there's a strong commitment on our part and on SASO's part to take a good look at those finances at the end of the season to make sure that we're respecting the need to contribute towards the swim team fund if there are extra funds available, but also making sure that SASO is fully covered in terms of their costs.
Okay, and another question on the recreational swim. You have, I think it's 12 and under, must have an adult with them, a chaperone. I think that's a good idea. Is that something that's common in other cities or communities that have recreational swim programs?
That's my understanding, based on conversations that we've had with Jody Michael, who's an aquatic professional. That's my understanding, and my experience is that drop-off daycare at a pool is not the norm. And in essence, if you leave your child in the care of somebody else, it's drop-off daycare, and it's drop-off daycare at the pool. And from a safety perspective and a liability perspective, it's really important that that adults stay with young children at the pool.
Yeah, I agree with that safety perspective. Definitely want to make sure that it's safe. I know, you know, I grew up in winters and we went to the pool and we'd go down and pay our entrance fee. I think it was $10 back then, and spend 2 or 3 hours there swimming and go home. And, you know, it was great. But I know things have changed a lot, and I'm definitely in favor of having that requirement in there that they have an adult with them to make sure that it's not really just a drop-off daycare. And, you know, to put all that onto the lifeguards, I don't think is fair. So, the last question I have, so I think maybe you answered it, but just to clarify, for the any kind of scholarships, we're not going to do any of that this year. If there's a swim team applicant that can't pay the full fees, we're not going to help them out with any kind of subsidy on that.
We had developed a program at this time, and we've spent a fair amount of time and effort just getting to this point. We haven't heard of children at this point that don't feel that they can access the team. I mean, an adult reached out and asked if they might be able to support somebody, and we haven't heard of anybody who needs the additional assistance. Having said that, there are funds available in the swim team fund. We would need to come back to the city council to have this with a proposal and with a program for the council to approve, because those funds are used exclusively for swim team, and I wouldn't want to create a program without council approval in terms of using the funds for any other purpose other than what we've already done. We could potentially create a program if we felt that there was a strong need. We just haven't done that at this point, just given all of our efforts to try and get the pool open and operated.
So if somebody came and wanted to do it, and somebody volunteered to say, you know, I would sponsor that particular person, we could do
Yes,
something like that.
we could
So
certainly
that
seek
would be-
sponsorships for the random ones that pop up this year if needed. Somebody's already reached out to me, but I wouldn't automatically turn to the swim team fund.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, any other council comments? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Ashley, do we have any oral or written public comment?
I see Corinne Martinez with a hand up.
Okay, welcome Corinne.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. And just briefly, because Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi actually raised pretty much all the things I was going to raise, just to say fantastic to see the partnership with Sasso and the swim team going. That's super positive for the community. Given the drop, I was going to raise the same point, given the drop off in the numbers from 221 or whatever down to 150, is it because of the fee increase? And if so, could we find a way to sponsor people kids who maybe are not swimming because they didn't have the funds? And it sounds like the city manager and the staff have taken that into consideration. I think that's fantastic. And, just encourage the city to pursue all means to get as many kids into that program as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Corinne. Ashley, do we have anybody else?
Kate Laddish has a hand up.
Okay, Kate, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And I'd like to echo what Corinne said about thanking staff for finding this way to provide these really valuable programs to our community in a way that hopefully will be both cost efficient and just overall efficient for staff, especially during a tricky time with juggling so many different things. And I'm just delighted that the aquatics offerings will be able to include swim team and swim lessons, as well as recreational swim and lap swim, which as staff mentioned, started on June 1st. And I believe I saw in the staff report that that Sasso anticipates doing some of their hiring locally, and or at least doing some local outreach to try to do that, which I think is terrific. And just as more information becomes available, I look forward to sharing it to the pool Facebook page and the email list. And so really the comment is thank you to staff for the ongoing work for this. It's very exciting.
All right, thank you, Kate. Ashley, do we have anybody else?
I am not seeing any other hands up at this time, and I did not receive any written comment.
Okay, thank you. City manager.
Yes, thank you, and I apologize. I just wanted to ask if you could indulge us to allow Ricky Silva to present himself so that everybody can see him, and then he has some upcoming meet and greets scheduled or on the schedule anyway for people to meet the coaches. He can explain a little bit about the local recruitment effort for swim instructors, and I think it's a nice opportunity, if you don't mind, just giving him a couple minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
So Ricky will unmute you. There you go.
Hi, everybody, and I apologize. I'm actually on a pool deck right now, and we're still required to wear a mask on the deck out here. I'm also coach at Solano College, so we've got some of the older kids swimming 50 meter. Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me and letting me speak, and we're excited about the opportunity. We definitely have been able to reach out a little bit locally. I think we're still hoping to hear a little bit more, and as I've talked to the pool manager and a couple of the current guards, I know one of their concerns was staffing up the guards, and once we get guards staffed up, then we can continue to reach out to some of those people to help us with the swim lessons. We've got the swim team covered in terms of coaches, and our hope is we continue to move forward, and as the season gets going, is to work with even some of the we call them junior coaches, in terms of helping out and providing them that experience. So when they get older, hopefully they turn around and apply as lifeguards and swim instructors and maybe coaches down the road. I think the registration, I would guess with the numbers coming in, and I think we see it a little bit where we are out here in Solano, is it really ebbs and flows. It's hard to predict the numbers. It may also affect it a little bit depending on the requirements that are on the swim team. So if we're requiring kids that are able to swim across the pool, that could affect the numbers a little bit. I think there is a plan to take on swimmers later in the summer. So if kids come out of lessons and they just a little bit rusty, not doing lessons in a while from that gap, from not having lessons, we'd love to get them on the team if we can. So hopefully that helps. Thank you guys for inviting me. Hopefully next time I won't have a hat or a mask on. Any of you.
Ricky, do you want to share your schedule in terms of the meet and greet with the parents for the swim team?
Yeah, we've set a couple. I'd have to pull it up. I apologize. I've got a few dates kind of spinning around. We just started our summer season, and with everything going on with COVID, it's everything that normally happens in 2 to 3 months is basically happening in 2 to 3 weeks out here. So it's been a little bit of a whirlwind. We basically have set up to a couple days that we can meet people on the pool deck if they want to come by the pool during the day, 17th, 18th. We also wanted to use those days. We like to call them staff and service days, where we can just work on training, get familiar with the facility, review the EAP. So that way our staff's familiar with any facility that we're at. Hopefully the COVID protocols and policies begin to lighten up a little bit, and that's less of the focus and a little bit more just on the pool itself. We are planning a meeting on the 23rd, a parent meeting. The goal was to have a portion of that in person, so anybody that wants to come out, meet us on the pool deck. And then also a Zoom meeting, so anybody that potentially just doesn't want to come out or can't come out, work schedule, whatnot, we can meet them right afterwards on Zoom. We did schedule 2 swim meets with some uncertainties in terms of COVID, and we've reached out to a couple teams to see what they're doing that have historically done meets with winters. A couple of them said, yes, we'd love to do it. A couple, one of them, for instance, in Natomas, they're not even in their pool at this point. So we decided it made the most sense to schedule 2 meets, one of them being more of an inter squad focus. And then the second meet, sticking with the tradition and running a Golden Valley League championship style meet, and keeping it as close to historical meet setup as we could. So hopefully that kind of gives an overview. We're still learning a little bit of the history. We have a coach that had coached way back in the day at Winters, so he's constantly filling me in some of the history and colors of caps and on and on and on. So that's been really helpful.
All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Ricky.
Ricky.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I might also share that the Assistant City Attorney has indicated that a previous version of the exhibit is attached to the agreement. So we had initially worked on a budget of $65 per swimmer. We've increased it to $85. And so the exhibit A that is attached to the agreement needs to be amended to reflect the $85 per swimmer fee that we settled at for the finances. So that's the only change to the agreement.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, do we have any other comments or?
Mayor, I would just like to make one more comment,
ahead.
and that would be just to say, I know our swim program, the lessons, the swim team, all that, it's kind of been in a transition for a while now. And maybe the COVID year off kind of brought some of this to a head. And I think the city manager and city staff have done a great job in doing this interim part to try out this year, and then to see what we can do to make it work better next year. I think this is a good way to go at it and to get things started back up. So thank you for all your work on that.
Yep, I agree completely. I'm looking forward to it. All right. Councilmember Lauren.
I'd like to move the item.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Biazi. We'll do a roll call vote. Ashley.
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you to the staff and to Ricky for all your work on this. Looking forward to everybody being able to get back in the pool. Thank you all. All right. Our next item is resolution 2021-39. And this is for Neighbor Works out of Sacramento, an exclusive negotiation agreement for their project here in Winters. Kathleen, are you gonna fill us in on this one?
I am going to defer to Dan McGuire.
Okay.
He will lead this conversation. Thank you.
Dan,
Good evening,
welcome
Mayor
back.
and Good evening, Mayor and council members. Staff is bringing to you tonight a recommendation of adoption of Resolution 2021-39, approving an ENA with NeighborWorks Sacramento. And in support of that recommendation, staff would like to provide council with some background and a little bit of update on how staff sees this project going forward, should city council approve the exclusive negotiation agreement. So as starting with background, council approved a couple of different ENAs with NeighborWorks last year. However, this project has been stalled, to say the least. The original framework that staff was working under with NeighborWorks included a land dedication of the 2-acre parcel that the city had deeded over to it from the Homes by Town folks. So that becomes the local leverage piece in the project. And then we had also discussed co-applying for an infill infrastructure grant for the project. And that allows them to cover the cost of sidewalks, sewer laterals, and a lot of the off-site infrastructure. And there were supposed to be 2 IIG NOFAs, Notice of Funding Availability, so 2 applications in 2020, but neither of those happened. So no NOFAs were released. And they only recently in 2021, maybe about a month ago, finally released an IIG NOFA. Staff participated in a NOFA workshop, and the recommendation to City Council based on staff's participation in that workshop is that the program is not a good fit for this particular project for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, the IIG grant guidelines utilize what's often referred to as the TCAC scoring model. TCAC is an acronym for the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee, and the vast majority of affordable projects, particularly multifamily, but affordable projects have some level of tax credits in them. And so even when we accepted the land dedication from Homes by Town, we realized that that would be a hard site to develop successfully under the TCAC scoring model for the more traditional multifamily. And that was when the Affordable Housing Steering Committee started looking into and talking about the NeighborWorks project. But a lot of the same bugaboos that would rule it out as a potential multifamily project are impediments within the IIG application. So for example, even if we could work around elements of the TCAC scoring model, i.e. like microtransit that we're using in Winters now, there's so many that we can't begin to address. So for example, the project site is more than a mile from the library. It's more than a mile from a dental clinic. It's more than a mile from a medical clinic. It's more than a mile from a pharmacy. It's more than a mile from a grocery. And it just goes on and on. So it just simply would not score well in a competitive scoring environment. But above and beyond that, there's other elements such as the program guidelines require an affordability covenant of at least 30 years duration. Now, the city of Winters, our inclusionary housing ordinance, and thus our Muni codes, specify a 15-year affordability covenant for self-help projects. So longer affordability covenants are somewhat counterproductive to the concept of sweat equity projects, because by coveting them for longer periods, you're restricting their ability to build equity in the project that they self-helped. So I'm not saying it's a deal killer, but that's another consideration is the parameters that they set on affordability covenant is inconsistent with our own inclusionary housing ordinance. And this is not an all-inclusive list of reasons that staff doesn't feel that it's worthwhile to pursue this particular grant. I've also discussed it with my counterpart at NeighborWorks. He pretty much had the same takeaway from his attendance at the NOFA workshop. And from a purely bottom line standpoint, this equates to roughly 20,000 per lot that they're not going to have to apply towards the project, because the IIG grant, you could go up to $500,000. If you divide that by 24 lots, it's about 20,000 per lot. And that's in talking to my counterpart, Justin McCormick with NeighborWorks, we're both of the opinion that that's an amount we can work around and keep the project moving forward. So Justin, he may be on this call. He was going to try to join us. He had another meeting in front of this. And if he was able to join us, he'll certainly be available for council questions once staff has finished the update. But anyway, we both feel that this project can be a viable project, and that's why we're asking for the NA. As an example, Justin is working with USDA Rural Development to secure pre-development funding to offset the IIG dollars. It's payback when the lots are sold, but it could allow them to address and offset that kind of missing piece from our original architecture for this project. The development costs here in Yolo County, and specifically Winters, are significantly higher than the Calusa projects that they've done. As an example, with this property, there's a sewer lift station reimbursement agreement, which adds about roughly $14,000 per lot. So it's Winters is more challenging because there's higher costs to develop the lot and to get it ready for construction. But the bottom line here is that all three parties being the city, NeighborWorks, and USDA Rural Development, really want this project to happen. So we're simply asking, by virtue of this exclusive negotiation agreement, to be allowed to have additional time to get this project framed out, where we can bring it back to council. If council approves this, the next steps would include to continue to revise and refine the DDA, the Disposition and Development Agreement, because that's the document that would ultimately give NeighborWorks the site control that is necessary for them to be able to apply to USDA Rural Development under the USDA programs that would be utilized. And the other next step that will be in the very near term future is Justin is in the process of setting up a meeting between himself, representing NeighborWorks, city staff, and Stephen Nodime, who's the single family housing program director for the state of California, based out of the Davis office. And Justin tells me that Stephen very much wants to see what they can do, what we can collectively do to make this a real project. And I simply want to have that meeting of the three minds so that we can noodle out how to take this thing forward. So that concludes kind of the staff comments on this, and I would certainly welcome any questions or clarifications that council might want.
Okay, thank you, Dan. For a retired guy that's coming back to help us on some of these projects, I gotta say, you're still pretty good with the acronyms, that's for sure. Did you say that Justin with NeighborWorks is on our call tonight, or is somebody from NeighborWorks?
I don't here. I'm not on gallery view, so let me switch to gallery view and I'll tell you. I know his intent was to try to join us, so I sent him the Zoom invite. But I also know that he had another meeting in front of this, so it was literally going to be a matter of he had to finish that meeting in order to be able to join us for this one.
Well,
and I don't see him. So
okay, just wanted to give him the opportunity if he was here. Okay, is there any questions from council for staff?
Yes, Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Basically, Dan, you gave us a lot of information there, and like the mayor said, a lot of acronyms to kind of follow and keep up with
Guilty.
them. But so I think maybe you can confirm if I'm right or not. So basically, we think it won't score well for the infill infrastructure grants. And you're thinking we might be able to replace that with a USDA rural development grant potentially, or money?
Well, yeah, this project has always been pinned to USDA rural development programs. And without getting too deep into the weeds on the specifics of the program, the program numbers are 502 and 523. But when Justin and I, by virtue of participating in the NOFA training, both came to the same conclusion that the chances of success in submitting an infill infrastructure grant application were pretty remote, given what we had learned and the inconsistencies with our own inclusionary housing ordinance. As he and I were having the discussions, part of a potential solution that he came up with is that USDA rural development does have another program that allows them that would potentially allow NeighborWorks to secure pre-development funds, and those pre-development funds would help offset some of the costs if not all of the costs that they hoped to cover with the infill infrastructure grant. Additionally, there's a lot of friendly aspects to the USDA rural development program that will help us get it to the finish line. And I'm going to give you some, the interest rates that associated with their program run 0.5% to 0.75% below the market. So somebody at USDA rural development is maybe subsidizing interest levels. The other thing that they do is they work with longer amortization schedules. So when you're trying to qualify families to participate in the program and push up the sales price that you can ultimately recapture, if you're able to have a 33-year note, or in some instances a 38-year note, that makes a huge difference compared to the traditional 30-year note. So there's just a ton of user-friendly type stuff in the USDA rural development program. I mean, there's another aspect, and I don't mean to get too deep in the weeds, but they actually have a 6-month forbearance baked right into their loan documents. And what that means is if you got laid off, you can have a forbearance of 6 months. It'll add 6 months to the end of the term of your loan, but you've got and I've never seen that in any other loan product. So there's a lot of good elements to it that, and obviously the moderate, or if you want to use the term middle market housing, is a very big need of this community. So we think that there's a way to get this to the finish line, but we need to get it back on track and make the financial aspects of it more solid than they are currently. And the ENA will give us the opportunity to do that.
So I know when we accepted this parcel as part of the affordable housing commitment of Homes by Town, and we took that on as a parcel to develop in the future. And then when the NeighborWorks came forward and we met with them, I mean, I think it was made very clear to them at that time, we didn't think it was going to score high for the other types of grants that might be out there for apartments, things like that. And that was part of the reason we decided, let's go with this type of program with the sweat equity that would help make them more affordable. So I think if we can try to work towards a way to fill in those gaps in the funding, that would be great. Last question, I think maybe you can clarify. We're looking at a 6-month extension on the ENA?
That is correct. The first two that came before the council in 2020 were more the standard city 90-day ENA. And in working with the city attorney, we are proposing a 6-month ENA rather than a 3-month, but feel pretty confident that council's going to know within that time frame that this is a real project or that it's not viable at this point in time. The other thing I'd be remiss if I didn't say is from 2008 on, when the state killed redevelopment, staff had to bring a whole lot of different affordable housing agreement proposals to the city council, and council accepted the mechanism of collecting in lieu fees for lows and very lows, so that we would have a way to generate the affordable housing monies that we need for local leverage. But in every conversation, council members brought up the desire to have for sale affordable housing as part of our affordable housing mix. And this project does at least give us a toe back in those waters.
Yes, it does. Thank you. That's all I have. Thanks for the clarifications.
Okay, Councilmember Lauren.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for Bill's questions. I thought they were very appropriate questions, but I also wanted to say welcome back, Dan.
Thank
It's
you.
very good to see you. It's very good to hear you and your expertise. So my understanding is that we are looking for a layer cake of funding of USDA rural development, pre-development funds to work with this partner, and we're getting a 6-month extension ENA. That sound?
And the expectation would be during that 6-month period, we would be able to turn this into a financially sound project, and we would bring a disposition and development agreement back to council for their potential approval. That disposition and development agreement would give NeighborWorks at the point that we execute that, then they would have the required site control. That is one of the threshold pieces of doing the application with USDA rural development.
Thank you. Thank you for your clarification. And I know that there's so many people in town that really want to see this happen. They really want to get into these houses, and there's a long list and a great need. So thank you for your work on this.
And to your point, in these type projects, typically close to 100% of them, of the participants, will come from winners, because it is a sweat equity program that requires 500 hours of contribution to the building of the subdivision. And NeighborWorks, practically speaking, is going to source first from winters, because you're not going to drive from Rancho Cordova to do your 500 hours in winters and then work a full-time job. So practically speaking, this project will likely be exclusively to the benefit, or primarily to the benefit, of Winters residents.
And thank you so much. My last comment would be that we did work together on outreach through the Hispanic Advisory Committee on getting a list, and I would be more than happy to have to be a liaison to update any lists that you seek in the future. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other council comments? Ashley, do we have any? Oh, Councilmember New. You're on mute. You're on mute. Pierre, you're muted.
He didn't
There
want to
you go.
unmute. He wouldn't unmute. What I was saying was, I want to thank Dan also for his work and his clear explanation. And I know that there's a list with the Hispanic Advisory Committee. There's other lists also that have been turned in. So keep up the good work, and keep us posted on what's happening as it goes along. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ashley, do we have any public comment?
I am not seeing anyone with their hands up, but Joanna and I did notice that Mr. McCormick is on the meeting.
Okay.
If he had any comments he wanted to make at this time.
Okay, Mr. McCormick, would you like to comment about the project?
Maybe he's logged in, but not actually in the meeting.
Okay. Well, I will say that I think these self-help projects are awesome. I think it's nobody's going to have more pride and ownership than the people that actually get to help build their house. I think this is one of the best ways we can help people that can't afford the market rate houses. And there's nothing better than sweat equity for pride and ownership. So I'm a big supporter of this type of program for sure. All right. Did Mr. McCormick make it? If not, since we didn't have any other public comment, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion. I would move that we adopt resolution 2021-39 and authorize the city manager to enter into a 6-month exclusive negotiation agreement with NeighborWorks of Sacramento.
I second it. New seconds.
Okay, we got a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi and a second by Councilmember New. Ashley, can you please do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anderson,
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren,
Aye.
Councilmember New,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi,
Aye.
and Mayor Cowan.
Aye, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody. Can't wait for this one to get going. Just one quick question, Dan, before you get away. If once they do the DDA and that gets approved, how much time will it take before they're actually out there slaving in the heat, building their houses?
Let's try to get the thing framed into a deal, but it depends on when we finish. If we're going into winter, it's longer till they ramp up and start. But I shouldn't think it would take long, Mayor. I really don't.
Good.
Just unless we're subject to weather conditions affecting the start.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And with that, we're going to move on to the next item, which is the city manager's report.
Yes, thank you. I have a couple brief comments. I wanted to remind the public that the draft housing element is out. It is available for public comment through June 30th. It is on the city's website. It is available hard copy at City Hall and at the library, the Winters Library. We will also present, the consultant will present the draft housing element at the next Planning Commission on June 22nd. So we strongly encourage people to participate, to learn more about the draft element and to offer any comment at that time. They may also contact the families Dan McGuire by phone or by email to share their thoughts as well if they would like. We are actively working on the fireworks show for July 3rd. Stay tuned for more information. We're also working on our hybrid platform to be able to come back in person on July 6th for in-person council meetings while also being able to maintain some sort of remote participation, whether it's Zoom or another platform. We're trying to address some technology interface issues between Zoom and Granicus. I did want to mention that as part of this crawl out of the pandemic and the ongoing conversations about the use of masks, we are requiring masks at City Hall in our public lobbies and at our public counters, and we are doing so because we do have an employee at City Hall who has a medical condition that prevents her from being vaccinated, and for her health and well-being, we are asking that staff and the community wear masks in the front lobby area of City Hall and our common areas and conducting business at our public counter. So I hope everybody understands why we're doing so, and we appreciate everybody assisting us with creating a safe work environment for her benefit. And finally, we have scheduled for June 29th, which is a Tuesday, a presentation by the developer for the Farmstead project. the technical consultant services and support for that environmental impact report was part of tonight's agenda, along with the proposed site plan for the Farmstead project. So please stay tuned. We'll be posting more information about that project on our website and through social media and through the City Manager's Friday update. But we strongly encourage people to attend the presentation by the developer on the Farmstead project. It is the next really large subdivision that is being considered by the city. And so we encourage people to attend that meeting. And with that, I have no final comments.
Okay, thank you very much. If nobody has any other comments, then we will close the meeting at 7:44. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.